3 days before she was supposed to return home, Amelia's business trip ended unexpectedly. Excited by the chance to surprise her husband Ethan, she booked the first flight home without telling him. During the flight, she imagined his reaction. Their marriage had felt distant lately, but she convinced herself it was only stress. 7 years together had taught her that every relationship faced difficult seasons. She believed this was just another one. That belief vanished the moment she turned onto her street. The first thing she noticed was the line of expensive cars parked outside her house. Then she saw the white lights decorating the yard, the flower arrangements near the entrance, and groups of well dressed guests laughing beneath covered tents as rain fell from the dark evening sky. Confused, Amelia parked across the street and stared. Ethan had never mentioned a party. He had never mentioned any celebration. A strange feeling settled in her stomach as she crossed the road and walked toward the front door. Music drifted from inside. So did laughter. The house glowed with warmth and excitement. But the moment Amelia stepped through the doorway, everything changed. The living room was filled with guests holding champagne glasses. Elegant decorations covered every surface. At the center of it all hung a large gold banner. Congratulations, Ethan and Vanessa. Amelia froze. Her eyes moved slowly across the room until they found Ethan. Her husband stood near the fireplace wearing a tailored black suit. Beside him was a beautiful young woman with a diamond engagement ring on her finger. Their hands were intertwined. For a moment, Amelia couldn't breathe. Nothing made sense. Then Ethan looked up. The smile on his face disappeared instantly. Fear flashed across his eyes. Not surprise. Fear. The kind of fear that comes from being caught. As the room continued celebrating around them, Ethan walked toward her. Amelia waited for an explanation, convinced there had to be one. Instead, he stopped a few feet away and said coldly, "What are you doing here?" The question stunned her. "Ethan, please leave," he said quietly. "You shouldn't be here." The woman beside him approached, looking confused. "Who is she?" she asked. Amelia expected Ethan to tell the truth. Instead, he sighed and said, "Someone from my past." The betrayal hit harder than she thought possible. 7 years of marriage reduced to a stranger from his past. Amelia slowly raised her left hand and showed the wedding ring she still wore. Then she looked directly at the woman. "I'm his wife." The room fell silent. Guests stopped talking. The woman's face drained of color. Ethan immediately claimed she was lying, but Amelia pulled out her phone and opened a photo gallery. Wedding pictures, anniversary dinners, family vacations, years of memories. The evidence spoke for itself. The woman, whose name was Vanessa, stared at the photographs in disbelief. "You proposed to me," she whispered to Ethan. He said nothing. For the first time all evening, he had no lie ready. One by one, guests began leaving. The whispers spread quickly. Within minutes, the engagement party was falling apart. Vanessa removed a ring and placed it on a nearby table. The tiny sound it made echoed through the room. Then she walked away. Soon, only Amelia and Ethan remained. The decorations were still there. The flowers were still there. But the celebration was dead. "How long?" Amelia finally asked. Ethan looked away. After a long silence, he answered, "A year." A year. For 12 months, he had lived a double life. A year of lies, excuses, and secrets. Amelia felt her heart break all over again. Then something caught her attention. A folder sat partially open on the kitchen counter. The moment she reached for it, Ethan's expression changed. "Don't touch that." His reaction told her everything she needed to know. Inside were bank statements, property records, and legal documents. The more she read, the colder she became. Their joint accounts had been emptied. The house had been transferred entirely into Ethan's name. Several signatures appeared on documents she had never seen before. Some didn't even look like her handwriting. The affair had never been the real plan. It was only one piece of something much larger. For months, Ethan had been quietly preparing a future without her. He hadn't just betrayed their marriage. He had tried to erase her from the life they built together. You don't understand, Ethan said desperately. But Amelia was done listening. All evening he had offered explanations without truth, excuses without remorse. Now she finally saw him clearly, not as the man she married, not as the man she loved, but as a stranger, and strangers could be fought. She closed the folder and pulled out her phone. For the first time that night, genuine fear appeared on Ethan's face. Who are you calling? Ethan asked. For the first time that night, there was fear in his voice. Real fear. Not the fear of losing a marriage, the fear of losing control. Amelia met his gaze without hesitation. A lawyer. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky as rain hammered against the windows. Inside, Ethan stood surrounded by the ruins of the life he had built on deception. His engagement party was over. His lies had been exposed, and the future he had carefully planned was beginning to collapse. As Amelia walked toward the front door, Ethan rushed after her. Amelia, wait. She stopped but didn't turn around. I can explain. The words almost made her laugh. For 7 years she had trusted him. For 7 years she had defended him, supported him, and believed in him. Now he wanted explanations. Now he wanted understanding, only because he had been caught. Slowly, Amelia turned to face him. What exactly are you going to explain, Ethan? His mouth opened, then closed. For once, he didn't have an answer. The silence between them felt heavier than the storm outside. You lied to me. He looked away. You lied to her. Still no response. You stole from our accounts. His shoulders sank. And you were planning to replace me before I even knew what was happening. The truth hung in the air, undeniable. Ethan lowered his head. For the first time all evening, he looked small, not powerful, not charming, not confident, just small. But Amelia felt nothing, no satisfaction, no anger, no desire for revenge, only clarity. The man she loved no longer existed. Maybe he never had. Without another word, she walked out the door. The cold rain greeted her immediately. She stood in the driveway for a moment, letting the storm wash over her. The tears she had been holding back finally came, not because she wanted Ethan back, not because she regretted leaving, but because she was mourning the future she thought she had, the future she had spent years building, the future that had turned out to be a lie. The following morning, Amelia hired an attorney. Within days, investigators began reviewing financial records. What they discovered shocked even her. Money had been quietly moved from joint accounts for nearly a year. Property records had been altered. Loans had been opened without her knowledge. Several documents contained signatures she never signed. The affair had only been one part of the deception. Ethan had been planning his escape long before Vanessa entered the picture. It wasn't just leaving his marriage. He had been trying to erase it. As the investigation continued, more secrets surfaced. Friends who attended the engagement party began reaching out. Some apologized. Others admitted Ethan had told them he was divorced years ago. Several confessed they had never even heard Amelia's name. Every conversation revealed another lie, another manipulation, another carefully crafted story. The man everyone thought they knew existed only in Ethan's imagination. Months passed. The divorce proceedings became public. Former friends distanced themselves from him. Business partners started asking questions. The reputation he had spent years building began falling apart piece by piece. Meanwhile, Amelia focused on rebuilding her own life. It wasn't easy. Some mornings she woke up angry. Some mornings she woke up heartbroken. And some mornings she simply felt exhausted. Healing wasn't a straight path, it came in waves. But with every passing week, she grew stronger. Then one afternoon, she received an unexpected message. It was from Vanessa. They met at a small cafe across town. The woman sitting across from her looked nothing like the confident fiancée from the engagement party. She looked tired, hurt, embarrassed. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Finally, Vanessa broke the silence. I'm sorry. Amelia looked at her. You don't owe me an apology. Tears filled Vanessa's eyes. He lied to both of us. Amelia nodded, because that was the truth. Neither woman had known. Neither woman had deserved it. And neither woman was responsible for Eden's choices. For nearly 2 hours they talked, not as rivals, not as enemies, but as two people who had survived the same betrayal. When they finally left the cafe, both women felt lighter, not because the pain was gone, because the truth was no longer carrying it alone. Nearly a year later, Amelia stood on the balcony of a new apartment overlooking the city skyline. The evening air was calm. The storm that had changed her life felt like a distant memory. A lot had happened since that night. The divorce was finalized. Most of the stolen assets had been recovered. The legal consequences Ethan faced were entirely of his own making. And for the first time in years, Amelia felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace.